attack those areas and get guys. We're looking for events all across the country that will enable us to grow our base so that we're prepared in those areas when things pop up. It's really important that you have a voice, work with your governor, and let's continue this recruiting, education, and training thing. Because the guys that have been to different events, the growth is phenomenal in just a short period of time. So we need to stay engaged with those things. Keep this real short. Recruiting, education, training, that's who we are. The other piece of this is about being a pro. And what I mean about being a pro is we have young men out there busting their tails playing for their schools, and we have a responsibility. And that requires us to prepare, and when we step on that campus, be a pro. So everything that you do, if you have the mindset of being a pro when you're out there, great things will happen. Great communication with coaches, great professional communication with players ends with a great result. That communication also starts with one another. Being willing to pick up the phone days, a week ahead of time, talk about teams, engage with your partners. But when you step on that campus, you represent 1,100 members. And that's a pretty powerful thing. And you can set the tone for that entire game by just a great handshake, eye contact, and being pleasant. And during those tough moments in a game, when a coach may be losing it a little bit, he's passionate for his kids. He's fighting for his kids. Our job is to be here. And if we are pros and we deliver that, great things will happen. I'm going to turn it over right now to Coach Scroggs and Tommy Evans. Thanks, sir.
Hey guys, I'm going to be brief. I'm glad to be here. Was at the coaches meeting yesterday, and their turnout was the best I have ever seen. Room was packed, just like this room is packed, and that's really good to see. One thing I'll mention, to me, it's like the who's in charge syndrome with everything. Our sport's no different. When I first got to North Carolina, the students, the undergraduates, they thought they were in charge. The faculty, they thought they were in charge. The alumni, they think they were in charge of the university. I quickly learned it was Dean Smith who was really in charge of everything in Carolina. Whenever he wanted to do something, we seemed to be able to do it. Our situation is not very much different. You guys have gotten so much more organized and so much more professional, as DA said. It's really great to see. I think the coaches are trying to. They're trying to. And I think that going forward, I've been blessed, worked with Jim Garvey, Warren Kimber, and now Tommy Abbott in my role with the Rules Committee and the NCAA Committee. It's been great having these kinds of guys to work with. And I'm really encouraged about what's going on in this room and what's been going on for years. Our sport is in a transition right now with officiating, I think. With the USILA getting out of the officiating model, I think things will work out eventually, but it's going to take, I think, some years to see how that's going to settle and fall. But I think we got great people involved with making those decisions. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Tommy for his welcome. But thank you for letting me be here, and I look forward to going over the video with you guys.
Thanks, Willie. BA hit it right on the head. We got to be pros. Coaches are full time. We're part time. We got to make sure that we show that we're not part time. So make sure that you pay heed to that. We're going to show the video real quick here, about 20 minutes long, similar to the ones that you've seen before. The film moves pretty quickly. We're going to cover a lot of stuff: face-offs, over and back, restarts, picks, pushes, holds, some heavy holds. The theme of the video is the same as in previous years. It starts out with easy calls, goes to harder ones. Some late hits, some protect the shooter, cross checks, stuff like that. New rules regarding commotio cordis, potential for Shot clock, right now they have to have two visible shot clocks. They're reset to two different numbers, so you know that's going to be a discussion next year with the rules committee. And then basically the last part's about goal mouth. We'll talk a lot about that in the dive play after it's over. Just a couple of informational things with regards to the committee. The committee is now going to meet in the end of May, the day after the championship game. We all fly to Indianapolis to do our rules meeting. So they've moved it up from August to bump everything ahead. This is good news, so we have longer, couple months now to prepare for things and move the preparation part for all of us up sooner. The bad part is you're going to have some surveys and stuff that come out during the season for referees and coaches. We need to have all that information at the NCAA collected and surveyed and back in their hands in time to be able to do this. So if you guys get information from NILOA or from the NCAA, please fill out those surveys and get your opinions back. Keep in mind the committee, when we make a rules change, next year's a rules change year, the committee does a really good job, and I've said this before, of trying not to make it specific to their team or specific to their division level. The rules are made for lacrosse players and lacrosse coaches at every level, at every division. So if you have an idea, make sure there's some way you can believe that it can be implemented. One of those things that they're talking about is 2 resets on a shot clock, and timers are just as important as we are, because if they screw up, it's a problem for us. If we screw up, it's a problem for them. So those are issues down the road. Basketball is dealing with it now with a 30 and a 20 on an offensive rebound. So that possibility of coming down the road is going to be there at some point. There was also discussion at the coaches meeting with regards to what happens with replay. Replay has been a discussion for a couple of years, and it's definitely going to be on our plate next rules session. How to do it, how to implement it, what the rules are for it, and if it can be used in certain situations and not in others. So without any further ado here, Tommy, let's start this thing. Takes about 20 minutes.
Welcome to the 2020 NCAA Men's Lacrosse Rules and Officiating video. This presentation contains significant rules changes for the upcoming season, points of emphasis, and officiating guidance. Numerous video examples have been selected to illustrate and enhance the understanding of the rules for officials, coaches, and student athletes. Let's start with the rules changes that were made during the annual meetings in August. The Rules Committee felt it necessary to address rules changes made in the year prior that had unintended consequences and for health and safety purposes during a non-rules change year. Only the most significant rules changes are covered in this video. Please refer to the summary of rules changes for 2020 on the Men's Lacrosse NCAA.org Playing Rules page for a complete listing of adjustments. The committee wants to remind head coaches, players, and officials that the overriding principle of the face-off is to play the ball. The committee still has concerns with long stalemates. A player may not trap the ball with his cross longer than it is necessary for him to control the ball and pick it up in one continuous motion. A player may not withhold the ball in any other manner. Helmet-to-helmet contact during the face-off is a serious concern. The following clip shows how exciting the faceoff can be when the ball comes out quickly. The following two clips demonstrate an offense reset where possession is retained by the offense and the shot clock is reset to 80 seconds. Notice the correct reset signals from the official, which allows the shot clock operator to correctly reset the shot clock. In the following clip, the two shots by the offense do not hit the goalkeeper or the cage, but rather a defensive player. The officials correctly do not signal a reset. Upon possession in the defensive half of the field, the team in white must advance the ball past the midfield line by 60 seconds to satisfy the clear. When the ball is within 5 yards, the player in white legally lifts the cross of the player in red, allowing the ball to cross the midline, creating an over and back turnover. On the restart, the player in red is within 5 yards of the player in white, but doesn't play the man. This is a legal play. An errant pass crosses the midline, creating an over and back. Upon the restart, the defender in orange does not give the player in gray the 5-yard buffer, which should result in a technical foul against the player in orange, since the defender in orange plays the ball. An errant pass crosses the midline, creating an over and back. After the sounding of the whistle, the player in white bats the ball away from where the restart should occur. The officials correctly call a delay of game.
0.7 delay of game. 30 seconds.
After the over and back, the player in white correctly places the ball directly on the ground. The player in red waits for a proper restart, resulting in a transition goal for red. On this play, after stepping on the midline, resulting in an over and back, the player in red immediately drops the ball and a good restart occurs. The player in white sets a legal screen against the player in blue. The following clips are examples of illegal screens. The player in green is moving while setting the screen. The offensive player in white, after passing the ball, sets an illegal pick, freeing up his teammate. The defensive player in white clearly runs through the screener and should receive a personal foul. The player in red pushes the player in white from behind, resulting in a loose ball technical foul. 8 in red pushes the player in white with possession of the ball, resulting in a 30-second technical foul.
Time of the penalty, first 20 of the fourth.
30 seconds.
The defender in blue, while defending the goal line extended, pushes the player in white from behind, resulting in a 30-second technical foul. The defender hooks and holds the offensive player to the ground, resulting in a 30-second technical foul.
1-6, hold, 30 seconds.
Number 3 in white holds the player in red, resulting in a technical foul.
Number 11, hold 30 seconds. 11, 30 seconds, hold.
The following 3 examples are holds around the head and neck area. These plays are dangerous and have the potential for injury. The committee asks that coaches and officials be aware of this concern, and these plays may be adjudicated with additional time because these plays occurred near the head and neck area.
Blue, 42, 30-second hold. The number 34, 30-second technical foul for a hold.
This clip shows that this play is clearly in the head and neck area and should have resulted in at least a 1-minute personal foul. No matter how inadvertent, a trip is a trip. A 1-minute personal foul is assessed.
White, number 9, trip, 1 minute.
The following clips are examples of illegal checks after the ball has left either the shooter or the passer's stick.
Red, 19, cross check, 1 minute.
The use of the cross toward the head and neck area should be called as a cross check. In this example, the official correctly calls an illegal cross check. These types of cross checks can be extremely dangerous. This should always result in a multiple-minute foul. Slashing is defined as swimming across at an opponent's cross or body with deliberate viciousness or reckless abandon. the committee approved the following rule for health and safety purposes. Beginning in January of 2021, goalkeepers must use chest protectors designed for lacrosse, certified to the NILOA Commotio Cordis Protective Device Standard at the time of manufacture, or they must wear an alternative protective device certified to the NILOA Commotio Cordis Protective Device Standard at the time of manufacture. Beginning in January of 2022, field players must wear shoulder pad protectors certified to the NILOA Commotio Cordis Protective Device Standard at the time of manufacture, or they must wear an alternative protective device certified to the NILOA Commotio Cordis Protective Device Standard at the time of manufacture. Commotio cordis, though rare, is a typically fatal condition caused by the impact of a high-velocity object to the anterior chest, causing cardiac arrest and death. Newly developed performance standards for chest protectors can mitigate or eliminate the risk of this preventable condition. As a reminder, in September 2018, the Men's Lacrosse Rules Committee and the Playing Rules Oversight Panel approved rules changes that require all men's lacrosse institutions to have two visible shot clocks with the ability to reset to two different times by the 2021 season. The Rules Committee addressed concerns about the goal mouth area by establishing a new field marking that will clearly define the goal mouth. The goal mouth is the 2-inch wide line that forms a half circle with a 6-foot radius directly in front of the goal cage, with a radius of 6 feet from the center of the goal line, extending out from the center of the goal line, connecting 3 feet out from both goal lines extended, where the goalkeeper is located and plays his position. Adding this field marking will clearly define the goal mouth. The previous definition of the goal mouth presented challenges for players, coaches, and officials during dive plays last year. This field marking may be placed on the field with paint or chalk at minimal cost and should be the same color as all other men's lacrosse lines on the field. With the establishment of a visible goal mouth, the committee amended the current goal crease and goal mouth penalties. With the goal mouth clearly defined and subsequently providing additional protection to the goalkeeper, the penalties for landing in the goal mouth have been adjusted. Most notably, contact initiated by the offensive player with the goalkeeper will result in a personal foul. Landing in the goal mouth with no contact with the goalkeeper will result in a loss of possession, which is a change to last year's rule that would have required a minimum of a 1-minute foul. Here are examples of plays where the offensive player lands in the goal mouth. These plays demonstrate illegal direction of the offensive player landing in the goal mouth that results in a crease violation. The following clips from the 2019 season show improper direction of players leaving their feet and landing in the goal mouth, initiating contact with the goalkeeper, which will result in a 1-minute unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. There are certainly times where crease plays result in simultaneous fouling. Simultaneous fouls are fouls called on players of opposing teams during 1, a live ball, or 2, a dead ball, when sequence cannot be determined. In this example, the offensive player in blue leaves his feet, lands in the goal mount, initiating contact with the goalkeeper. The defensive player in white pushes the offensive player in the back, while the offensive player is in the air, resulting in simultaneous fouls. The player in white will receive 30 seconds. The player in blue will receive 1 minute. The team in white will gain possession. Offensive players attempting to go in a direction away from the goal mount may be fouled by the defense, resulting in a penalty. In these examples, the foul by the defense is wiped out as a result of a good goal. The following clips are examples from the 2019 season, which would still be legal during the 2020 season with the new visible goal mount. In each clip, the offensive player makes an athletic move and lands outside the goal mount. This concludes this video presentation. We leave you with another reminder why NCAA lacrosse has exciting end-to-end action. Thank you for your attention, and good luck the remainder of the season.
Fellas, let me just point out that one of those, is it on? Can you hear me back there? Testing, 1, 2. Fellas, I want to point out that protective equipment, that came from the NCAA Safety Committee because of the Commodore Cordis situation. Goalkeepers this spring will be required to wear the chest protector that's been redesigned to protect the chest area against Commodore Cordis. In 22, all field players will be required to wear it. And this is a big change, I think, for everyone in our sport. But it's going to come up through the high schools. All the high school kids have to wear this protective equipment also. So as kids transition into college, they're going to be getting more kids that are used to wearing this, because we know now that not many of our field players even wear shoulder pads, I think. I mean, some of them do. Your role in this is you ask the coaches in the pregame meeting to certify that their players are all equipped according to the rules and that their equipment is all legal. That's your role in this. We're going to be very concerned about our coaching and our institution, that they're very mindful of this. We're concerned about it. We're also concerned about the face-off stick that is like a Gumby thing. It bends all over the place, and no one wants to call a stick check, it seems like, anymore. We're going to really go after the coaches to make sure that they understand if their kids are altering these sticks, which we're hearing that they do. They alter the face-off stick so that they pinch them a little bit. That's illegal. Altering your equipment is illegal. So we're concerned about these things. And your role in it is the coaches call for a stick check, you check the stick. They're wont to do it right after a face-off. Hardly ever happens, I know that. But that's your role in it, to do it if called upon, and to make sure that the coaches certify that their players are all equipped. And if they're not, it's a violation.
Thanks, Willie. I'm just going to run through real briefly each of the points, just to add to Willie's comments. We had a question and answer period with the coaches on Thursday night after the showing of the video. What they ended up doing was they had forwarded some questions to us that we could review and answer and have ready for them at the end of the video. So I may run through a couple of these with you just so you hear what they talked about. If I can get the page out there. Actually, there's three. One of those issues was the face-off sticks and whether or not referees check face-off sticks. And my comment to the committee on one of our meetings the other day was, I don't want the memorandum to say that Tom Abbott says check all the sticks. The memorandum needs to come from the committee, and it needs to come from the coaches who say their kids are properly equipped. The onus is on us to make sure that if there is a stick check, that we do it the right way. And we'll probably deal with this with some face-off changes potentially next year in the rules. Some other items that they had, they were talking about the clamping. I know Tommy's going to cover this in part of his stuff later. The question that they had was, please describe the difference in rules in legal clamping and illegal clamping. In particular, on page 29, notes 10, and actually note 11, and on page 69, section 12, the opening paragraph. If you go and look at the rule book, those two statements are contradictory to each other. We've always allowed face-off guys to do something different than regular players. And that's why there's a potential that they could change the rule to based on what it says on page 69. So our answer was very good point, possibly could lead to a face-off adjustment and not allow clamping to occur. So that's something that may come down the line, just so you're aware of it. What we're asking you guys to do, I want to transition back now into what we saw on the video. Because face-offs was the first thing we saw, and the 50-second face-off was certainly an exciting play, don't you think? I mean, nobody really wants to see that except for one guy in the rules in the coaches meeting said, I think that's great. Obviously, he's not watching the same thing we are. It's a difficult thing. They're allowed to clamp, move it with one motion if they can. If you see someone gain control of that ball and they have it and they don't move it, take it away. We have the right to do that. I'm not saying you can do it all the time, but if you know for sure that that kid's not moving the ball, they'll fix it. Our face-offs have been better recently, but this is definitely an issue that the committee's looking at. You saw the film, there were 9 or 10 spots where there were face-off guys, and we pulled the last one out that went 50 seconds. So it's still an issue with the committee. Over and back and restarts, pretty much those on the video were what we want and what we need to know. The discussion was in the play where the Virginia kid, actually the ball rolled across the midfield, the Virginia kid put it down and Maryland scored on a fast break. The Virginia coach basically said the other day, what do I tell my kid to do? Throw it in the stands and take the penalty? Let it go through or let it play? How do I do it? You know, he wants to know how to teach it. So basically we told him the kid did the right thing by the rules, but it cost his team a goal. So they think of all this stuff that matters to them in a one-goal game. Obviously, it makes a difference. Try not to let play-ons go too long. If somebody's within 5 yards of a player, kill it right away, and the restart occurs at the point where the ball was whistled dead. So if you whistle it dead and that kid allows it to go all the way through and it stops inside the box, bring it back to where it was. That'll eliminate that kind of an issue. Technical fouls, we saw a bunch of picks and pushes and holds. The biggest part of that is the last section where they were talking about holds that were high and up near the neck. So we don't have a hold penalty unless Terry Cullen ever could get it through years ago. There was a hold for a minute. That's discussion with Terry years ago. Unnecessary roughness works, or he could call something up around the head. But they're concerned about injuries, and I'm going to jump back to face-offs. The helmet contact is important too on face-offs. There's statistics that may come out. We're trying to get the NCAA to do some surveys with regards to how many injuries face-off players have during the course of their career. Michigan last year had 4 face-off kids, and they could not face off with anybody by the second game. They were all hurt. So there's issues with the face-off, and that's why we're talking about this stuff. High hit, same thing. The late hits, protecting the shooter, the cross checks, the slashing, all that excessive stuff we have to get. There was discussion with the coaches about, one of their questions was, how do you determine on a targeting play whether it's a 2-minute, 3-minute, or ejection foul? We don't have protocol for that yet. We probably should. At some point, we're going to have to figure out how that's done. In football, if there's a high hit, they have a flag, it goes to a replay guy. Right, Hansi? Goes to a replay guy. Guy in Greensboro says number 12 is out of the game. We don't have that opportunity yet. We may have it in the future. But there needs to be some protocol for it, and we're working on trying to do that. Steps to decide on what fouls lead to what. We had this discussion 2 years ago, right, Tommy? You had a film clip, and we had a debate on whether or not it was a 2-minute foul or an ejection foul. Not many of us could agree. But if it's in the head and neck area, it's got to at least be 2. Make the call. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the online rule book, which is now up on the screen. You guys should have had an opportunity to get that. Everybody understand it's online this year? Yes? No? Yes? Shake head? Okay. All right. So good. Make sure you copy that. I wouldn't say throw the other one out from last year, but this is the important part that you really need. So essentially, definition of the goal mouth has been changed. It's in Rule 1-4, which is not up there, but it states it's in 1-4, shows the diagram and all that. An offensive player in possession of the ball outside the crease area dives or jumps and lands in the crease. The goal will be allowed, provided the ball enters. This is standard stuff before contact with the crease, the goalie, or the goal. Now, if he dives and he ends up in the goal mouth itself, the goal does not count. It's disallowed. So you're going to ask me whether or not, if a guy dives and jumps and lands in the crease but not on the goal mouth, what happens if he rolls into the goal mouth? The goal does not count. They want this to be, remember last year I said away needs to be further away? How many times did I say that? So this year, the center of the crease with the definition of the goal mouth, away is way further away. So if they dive and jump, and contact doesn't cause it, we'll talk about that in a second. If they dive and jump and there's no contact, and they land in the crease, and they roll in the goal mouth, take the goal away. Pretty soon they'll figure out they can't go there. The coaches want it for consistency. I think we want it for consistency. And it's important to make that space further outside. Okay? Let's scroll up here a little. Now we changed the ARs. Okay, so we've got back up there. Okay, 79A. A1 in possession of the ball, dives or jumps while in the air, legally checked by B1 into the crease or into the goal mouth. In the first case, we know that if he lands in the crease, he's okay. The goal counts. If he lands in the goal mouth on a legal check, the goal does not count. So all this wording was changed. Away and not away and all that stuff is gone. 79B, possession of the ball, dives or jumps. And all this is predicated on dives or jumps. That'll be the next question, whether or not he stands still and doesn't leave his feet. We'll talk about that in a minute. In possession of the ball, dives or jumps while in the air is illegally checked into the crease or the goal mouth. And the ball goes in. Ruling, in the first case, flag down on a defender, the goal counts, assess the penalty. And if the foul is technically, you're going to wipe it out and personally you're going to serve it. Second case, flag down on a defender. If the airborne shooter lands in the goal mouth solely due to the illegal contact by the defender, the goal counts. So if he's in the air and he gets hammered by a defensive player that puts him into the goal mouth, and the goal went in, count it and serve the penalty. And that one might be 2 minutes because that's a pretty big hit. So the purpose of this is we're taking away the center of the crease. We're giving the offensive player a chance to get out of the way of those hits that we used to have when we had to stop. The offensive guy would have to stop and get railroaded from behind. The committee wanted him to have a chance to get away. All of the thought process from our rules committee was based on perimeter dives from the previous year. And last year, with the way the rule was, proved to be difficult because everybody was going to the middle. So in essence, this is the portion of the rule book that we need to know and make sure that we understand. The simultaneous foul deal, I didn't really like it after I saw the video. I thought the one with Spencer from Loyola, his was close, but he probably was going in. The idea was he would have landed in the goal mouth. He probably would have hit the goalie anyway, but he did get shoved. That probably would have been simultaneous foul. We're still going to have them, but it's going to be rare because the constant here is the only way an offensive guy can get a foul is if he initiates contact with the goalkeeper. All the goalkeepers in the goal mouth. He's got to run right at him and take him out, and that'll be pretty rare. So I think that'll end up with mostly just crease violation. Any part of his body. Yep. Any part of his body. In most cases, what this was designed to do, remember last year it said where the goalkeeper normally plays his position, and we didn't define it with marking. This is where he plays his position. Some goalies like to play higher, and maybe they'll teach him to play higher. But the idea here is if an offensive guy makes a move and he's just going to run the goalie, you guys should know that. You'll see it. There'll be contact, and this is going to be a tough play no matter what the rule is. But this will give us an alleyway, give those guys a chance to get further outside, and it gives us clear definition on what's legal and what's not. Any other questions in regards to that? Correct. And the idea here is the coaches wanted the rule to be landed in the crease, landed in the goal mouth. Landing in the goal. You saw a couple of the goals, and they were all close at the end. It was hard in last year's videos to pick the right one. And about 80% of what we saw and tried to pull from our video files would have probably been illegal goals, right, Willie? There would have been no goals this year that we counted last year. So we tried to pick at that point. But without the markings on the crease, it was hard to discern what to do. But yes, the idea was players are now going to have to learn if they're going there, they got to dive and roll away. They got to roll out. If they roll in and it's not caused by contact, then take it away. Okay. I'm sure we'll have lots of discussions on this during the course of the next few months. There'll be no doubt about that.
Fellas, I wanna add a little bit about your process before the game. Is you always inspect the field. The field markings are 4 inches. The goal line is 2 inches. The goal mouth should be 2 inches, a 2-inch line. And I wouldn't, and we're going to reinforce this before the season in a memo to all the institutions that the goal line is 2 inches, the goal mouth line should be a 2-inch line. 2 inches going further out can make a difference, I think. This isn't a very big area, and it isn't a very big area to land in. As Tommy said, the clips that we all watched, some of those clips you just saw, but we looked at 4 times that many of dive plays, 80% of them would be illegal. There was contact with the goal, and they were ruled good goals last year. So we said that to the coaches, that what you did last year, although that was legal, that'll probably be illegal this year. And a lot of it, that foul by the defenseman, that last grasp, he's lost it. He knows that guy's going to be going inside him. and they push and they compound the play. We made the point with the coaches, if you can, teach them not to push because he's probably going to die the least. Yeah, they didn't like that. Listen, I know that when I coached, I used to say, push the guy, let the referee figure out what it was.
Yeah, so that went over real well with the coaches, but the point was made. They're still going to foul, though. Trust me, they're going to foul. I want to talk briefly about the last statement on here. The goaltender can also initiate contact. He can come out and create contact trying to save the ball. And if that happens, if it's contact before the ball goes in, we all know that that's the rule. It doesn't count. But if he comes out to initiate a body check, just like the offensive guy initiating a body check, that can also be a foul. Some goalies like to come out, they're frustrated, they're going to take the guy out. There's one stone flip to the slope. That came up high. Be aware of that. And I know how hard it is. It's tough. These kids are big, fast, strong. You know, the two kids that collided at the midline with the cross check, Penn and Army. One kid I know is 6'5", the other one's like 6'3" or something. They're big, tough, strong kids. And he hit him, it would have knocked me out for 3 weeks. The kid from Army didn't even budge. It was like shaking off a fly. So in any case, that's our discussion about the dive. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions at some point. I'm going to briefly morph into assigning and where we are with that at this point. The process is about 90 to 95% done from my Division One end. I've got some more stuff that obviously this week is a little busy, but I'll sort out the rest of it in the next couple days. We have the RAs and I have at least two or three calls a month on webinars or conference calls, not to mention all the emails back and forth to go over a whole bunch of stuff with regards to the schedule. I sat down to dinner the other night with Willie and the rest of the NCAA committee, and we went to a nice restaurant, D'Alessio. It's a beautiful place, great Italian food, lots of wine. We all had a good time. Sitting across from me was Richie Mead, who's the Furman coach, and Richie is part of the championships committee, and a lot of fun to be around. So Freddie Acey, who's sitting next to me, says, "Hey Rich, when's your first game?" He says, "Oh, we play Bucknell on February 1st." So I'm sitting next to Freddie, and I'm like, I don't quite remember that one. I got a lot of games in my head, but that one didn't ring a bell. So Freddie says to him, "Geez, you got to be playing it at your place because it's gonna be pretty cold up there in Pennsylvania." He said, "No, we're playing it someplace at Duke." Whoop! My antenna went straight up. That game wasn't in the system. I have no idea why. But I've had that several times in the last week or so. ACC changed 4 or 5 games the other day to Thursday nights. The Big Ten Network hasn't even set their schedule yet. So long story short, we're going to sort this out and try to balance things for everybody concerned. We have a list of, just so you guys know, we have a list that I've had for years that has most of all the D1 guys on it, what tier you're at, what tier we think you're at, whether you're an R or an umpire or a field judge or a guy coming in, they're all rated. We try to have an idea of based on last year's games and maybe where we are this year, where we're going. It's not perfect, but it's complicated. But we do talk about it, and we're doing our best to make sure that we do that. So if we pull a guy off a game and say, all right, well, let's say Brian Abbott's got 42 games, so that's too many. So we got to take a couple games away. If we take one away on a date, we throw in a guy who needs a game, and we put Brian on a game that really could matter someplace else to help some other officials learn and get better. So that the disconnect between the D2, D3 stuff is now becoming less of an issue than what we had in previous years. So we're hoping that that'll help us in the future to get this squared away. The D2, D3 assigners, some have started. One is actually finished, which I'm not happy about again. But in any case, if your name's not on a list, you can trust me that I will find you someplace if I need to. The rest of the guys will start right away if they haven't started already. I'm sure that I've told them to go ahead and start on some. There were a couple dates that were issues. For me, Saturday, February 22 was tough, and there was another one in March that was tough. Just a lot of games. Releases of the scrimmages will come fairly soon, within the next week or so. The balance of the schedule we'll have squared away pretty quick, but we probably won't release that till everybody's ready on Division 2 and 3. If you fly, there's flight protocol. Make sure you know what that is. Kevin has to work out pretty hard doing that stuff. So make sure you get your flight stuff in if you're flying to Division 1. The schools have to pay for it, so please do it early so it doesn't cost them an arm and a leg. If you have an availability issue, please let us know. We've based it on what's in there now. Some guys don't have anything in. Some guys have a lot of it in. And I realize that many of you don't know what the deal is until we get to March or April, whether or not you have a family issue or whatever else going on. So just communicate with your assigners and do the best you can with it because it's really important. And we'll make the adjustments as we need to. Charlie, Libby, you got anything else? It's W9s, I think, right? Thanks, Charlie. Buzzy, you got anything from your end? Whoever Buzzy is? Nothing? Walt, you got anything? Walt Muncie? That's it? Okay. Brenny's not here. He's in Mexico doing some trip in Medellin. He may never show up. Who knows? Said he was okay the other day, but I don't know. Tommy, you gonna talk about record calls at some point? Okay, so I won't cover that. Anybody else got any questions while I'm up here? All right, you guys know my email, my phone are always open. I'll be busy the next couple of weeks, but after that I'll have a break. If you got something, make sure you get it to us. If you got a conference issue, get it to your RAs or to your assigners in Division 2 and 3. And have a great season. Buzzy wanted to say that there is going to be a weigh-in after lunch, an alcohol breathalyzer test, and what else? Okay, right, that too, right. Yeah, Walt? Go ahead, you're on it. Go for it. It's basically what happens is in Zebra Web, there's your referees reports, coaches have reports, observers have reports. We've diddled around. Basically, Buzzy and Walt, John Titus is going to have a presentation later. Some of the observation forms have been changed so that they're quicker and easier to fill out. But essentially what happens is I get one that comes on ZebraWeb, the remainder of them that go to you guys will come separately from the guys who do the observations. So you will get some input and some feedback that way. Right? Outside of that, I think I'm good. If you guys need anything, let me know. I want to meet the RAs in the back of the room with Jim Vacco in a second. All right? Thanks.
We're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break so Tommy and Willie can vacate. Thanks. All right. So much for my little speech about being back on time, huh? That worked well. Yeah. All right. From now on, with no more breaks. That's what you get. All right. In all seriousness, we've got Danny D over here. He runs Stripes. He did the jerseys for us last year. I'm going to let him talk a little bit about his process this year. But, you know, he got the shirts out in an amazing amount of time last year. It was pretty impressive. That's for sure, right? And well, you know, that just tells you how much Honings makes. Because he's a lot less than Honings, right? So, Danny, go ahead.
Thanks, fellas. Pretty straightforward for this year. If you need new stuff, we need to have the order in by the 15th. So for all the new guys who are coming in, if they have their numbers, great. Just have them ordered by the December 15th. I should say. Yeah, so just get them in if you can. Any questions, reach out to us, email us. Other than that, just get them in by the 15th, please. And I drive a Volkswagen, so not making a ton of money.
Drives a Volkswagen but lives on a yacht. He's all good. Don't need a damn car. You live on a yacht, Danny. Governors, I assume the number assignments have been done for the new guys? Everybody? Okay, thanks. So they're all set. Have you instructed them to where to order the jerseys? Or do we need to put an email out to them? Pretty silent. All right, they got it? Okay, thanks. All right, the next portion, we're going to do some business. Kevin O'Leary, our executive director, is going to come up and enlighten everybody. You don't want to come up here?
The best part about Danny D coming up here and talking to TJ busting his balls, of all people, is talk about somebody's new boat. So I got a bunch of things that I want to go over quickly. Start with the Observer program. We got about a month into the Observer program last year, and I sort of took a step back to sort of figure out where we were and where we were headed with it. From that standpoint, Walt and Buzzy have done a great job this fall. We met in Tampa on a Saturday night and a Sunday night. Try to standardize the forms that are being used so that, and Hansi will talk about it, so that, and Tommy, the development and the training programs that we're going to do, it'll be one form. So I thought last year was super positive that through NILOA.net, we got the forms filled out and then sent to you all the evaluations for the first time. The changes in the program this year, which started instituted at the beginning of last year, the observers will go through 2 training calls similar to the director's calls in January and early February. And then we've already scheduled conference calls. I have tentative dates for conference calls that the observers will be on with the RAs and with Tommy. One of those will take place in early March, and the second will take place in early April with the idea, the concept that input from the observers directly to the assigners. I've talked to Tommy about use of the program and use of the information. So that you all know, at the end of last year, I sent a spreadsheet to each one of the observers with anybody that they had observed and asked 7 or 8 questions about their ability or your ability to referee Division One games. Division One games as a referee, Division One playoff games, Division Two and Division Three playoff games, and conference playoff games. And that data was given to Tommy and is being used for the assignments this year. So we need more interaction. We got some great observers. We do some great work. One of the goals last year was to get some of the RAs into areas where they had not been before. The RAs are, their jobs are to help and assist Tommy in his job, and so Buzzy came down to Baltimore and Georgetown. Charlie Libby went up to the Pennsylvania area, and then Walt Muncie spent a lot of time in Florida and in North Carolina doing observations. So we spent a lot of money on these observations. The program is being funded by MLAX-OG, the NCAA, U.S. Lacrosse, and then of course your dues money goes into that. From a standpoint of executive director, it's been a long year. We've had some issues that we sort of thought would occur because of the USILA getting out of officiating services or offering and administrating officiating services 3 years ago. So we have some issues in California with a conference and the assigner. We have some issues in District 6 with the fee structure. I appreciate the input and the time and the effort that the governors in those areas have put in. Also, some of the officials that have taken a lead in both of those cases. I think we'll resolve them. It'll take us a little bit more time to do it, but it certainly has been a challenge that we sort of knew was going to happen. We're in contract negotiations right now with MLAX-OG, which is the LLC that was formed by the 10 Division I conferences. We're pretty far down the road on that. The last part of it is obviously the most difficult part, and that will be the fees. There's been some changes to job descriptions for Tommy and for the RAs. There's been some discussion and changes that have occurred as to who's going to administer and how the agreement will be administered from their end. They have an operating group that's much more involved in this process and know they needed to be more involved in that process. So that's a positive. So hopefully the contract expires in June. I would hope that by the end of January, I'll be able to report to you guys that we'll extend that for probably 3 years. Once that contract is extended, it will be posted on NILOA.net. Also on NILOA.net, I apologize that we didn't get this out in a timely fashion last year, but on NILOA.net is every fee structure for every level, Division 1, 2, 3, junior college, scrimmages. If there's any concerns or questions about any of that, as always, please don't hesitate to contact me. This last part that I want to discuss is not something that I ever thought I'd have to discuss, but I think we need, as a group, to know where the board stands on this, and just importantly, where I stand on this. Through this process in District 6 and in California, our game has changed. And there's a lot of positives to the change. There's some negatives. And one of the negatives is some of you guys are involved and some of us are involved in assigning, and how assigning is working and how people feel that they're handled within that assigning process. And we've got guys that are in this room that are involved in signing of these club tournaments, signing of high school, but more importantly, probably the tournaments and the summer tournaments and the fall tournaments. And quite frankly, the economics of this game, I wish I would have been smart enough 10 years to get in front of it, but the economics of this sport have changed, as you all know. And along those lines, we've had two situations this year where, I don't want to use strong words, but I'm going to. We've had guys that go right up to that line and right up to of almost being an ethical problem in the way that they handle some of these assignments, and I've gotten feedback from guys where they've said, I feel like I need to do this because if I don't do this, then it's going to affect my schedule in the future. I feel like I'm concerned about this, and if I don't do this, and there's nothing this board takes more serious, there's nothing I take more serious than the assigning of these games and how it's handled from the standpoint of what's fair and what's right. So I want to offer to each one of you that there's a concern. We talked about it last night at the board meeting. We are better off knowing about these things when they start rather than when the house is on fire or when the dumpster's on fire. And the problem at this point in time, in some of these cases, by the time we find out about them, they've occurred and we can't correct them or make them better. So I offer you again, have my cell phone number, my email, or 2 email addresses. Please, if you feel like there's something that's not being done right in the assigning process, and sadly it's not on the Division I level, it's not with the RAs, but it's on the Division II and the Division III level, and the fact that there's a lot of money involved in this sport that used to not be involved, quite frankly. At the end of the day, you guys have heard back in the day Warren Kimber's famous comment was, we're the third team on the field. That's a pretty simple solution. As the third team on the field, we need to be better teammates. We need to be better teammates to each other. You heard me say a couple years ago that we need to connect the dots. We need to take training and observations and have that connected to the assigning. We're doing a better job with that. But it's time that we need to be better. This sport is changing, and it's changing dramatically. And we've heard it today. We see it from the NCAA level. We see it from the assigning level. All we have at the end of the day is each other. You look to your right, you look to your left. That's it. Back in the day when these coaches were our friends and our buddies, doesn't exist anymore. All right, this sport changed dramatically 7, 8, 9 years ago when coaches started losing their jobs. Okay, when I had a part in hiring Coach Adele at the University of Maryland, I told you what the salary was, and it was completely off the charts for everybody else, you would laugh at me. I told you what the salaries are today of these guys, you shake your head. We need to be better. We do directors' calls. We got 50, 60% participation, and all you have to do is turn your computer on. And if you don't do it on that Thursday night, all you have to do is turn your computer on sometime between Thursday night and Monday morning, and we still only have 60% of the people doing it. Simple educational process that Tommy spends time doing, and Tommy spends time doing, and PJ. We need to put the effort into this. It's a simple game to officiate. We need to be better. If you're not sure how to get better, come talk to me. Right? Guys that I have seen over the years, I used to make a comment that watch what you wish for. You want to referee at the top level? It's a pretty simple process. And I'll ask you about 5 questions and see how you answer it. How many times have you gone to a game just to watch the game? How many times have you gone to a game and sat in the pregame and the postgame at a high level? How many times have you sought out guys I don't know any guys at the top of the game who doesn't accept telephone calls and talk about the sport and talk about what we want to do. If you have questions on that, call me. But fellas, we have got to treat each other better. We're all we got. You look to your left, you look to your right. This is it. I appreciate you coming to this meeting. We'll survey again this hotel. I'm not in charge of the hot water. God damn, it was cold this morning. Especially that's not Florida, boys. But we'll survey again this hotel versus the other one and what we do. I think it's positive we do this independently of the coaches. I appreciate you being here and I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Couple of business items. when we break for lunch, you all need to see your governor, and make sure the governor knows you're here. Make sure the attendance is taken. All right. This year we changed filming companies. Keith Glock is in the back. Keith, thanks for doing this for us. He's one of our District 3 members. And also, what we're going to do is we're going to break up these sessions a little bit, especially in the afternoon sessions. We're going to have them posted online, but they'll be broken up individually. So there'll be resources for you there all the way through the season to refer back to. All right. Next, we're going to do some award presentations. Butch West is here with us. Butch and Bob Patterson have done the Bernie Ullman and Frenchie Julian Award for a number of years now, and I'm going to turn it over to Butch.
Thanks very much, Tommy. I love what Kevin O'Leary said about the teamwork of the officiating. Comes a point in time when all of us have to take a break from it, which was for me about 4 years ago. But love the recollections you guys bring out here and what you're doing for lacrosse and for officiating. The Bernie Ullman and Frenchie Julian Awards are given each year to what we think are very deserving people that have contributed to the game of lacrosse and officiating. Bernie Ullman and Frenchie Julian were, I would say, sort of the grandfathers of lacrosse officiating. They were there when they were formulating the rule book. Bernie Ullman was a wonderful official, not only in lacrosse, but in football. He was the chief referee. He was the referee in 2 Super Bowl games. And he was one of the foremost officials coming along in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, mainly down in the Maryland and south of New York areas. Frenchie Julian was a great official, actually a great character as well. For anybody that knew him, they'll remember that. But he brought so much to the game, so much passion, and I would say it was his life. And so we celebrate those 2 men as well as the recipients of these awards who are reflecting what those guys brought to us at an early stage. The Bernie Ullman Award is to go to an individual who contributed to the success of intercollegiate lacrosse officiating and made a meaningful contribution to the game of lacrosse. This year, that award goes to an official who was nominated and had these comments said about him. He has been an integral part of the development of lacrosse in the southwestern Ohio area. He's devoted countless hours and much of his own money and resources to promote, educate, and mentor hundreds of officials. He is always looking to help to lend a helping hand to players and coaches. He's a true ambassador of the game. And this from one of the coaches that wrote about him, that as a coach, when I see him walk on the field, I know the game will be officiated not only well from the rules standpoint, but as important from the standpoint of sportsmanship. I think you could have no higher said about you than that last part about sportsmanship. So it gives me great pleasure to present the Bernie Ullman Award for 2019 to Wally Petrie. Unfortunately, Wally could not attend today, but accepting for him is Ty Wilkinson, who is a great friend and also a person that assisted in mentioning him, bringing him to our attention.
Thank you very much. Like was noted on here, Wally is a good friend of mine, and when I think of the Bernie Ullman Award, it goes to grassroots and development of lacrosse, not only from the game, but also from an official standpoint, and Wally is the epitome of that. He started serving, he played at Salisbury, he went on to serve in the United States Air Force, and retired from there and became an air traffic controller, just recently retired from that, and is now dedicating his life pretty much to the game of lacrosse. So, as Butch was saying, he did give tremendous amount of time, money, and effort to this development of the game and a lot of officials that we have in the Southwest area. He has served on the board. He has done a chief clinician. He has served as the chief of officials, an observer. He also has multiple MCLA national championships under his belt, as well as state championships. And from my heart, he has been a true both friend and a true contributor to this game of lacrosse. So on behalf of that, I'd like to thank you on his behalf, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Ty. The Frenchie Julian Award is awarded each year to the individual who is an active or past member of NILOA or its predecessor, an intercollegiate official who contributed to the success of NILOA and made a meaningful contribution to the game of lacrosse. The individual this year to receive this played lacrosse at Hamilton College and was awarded the Upstate New York All-Star honor in 1961. He served as an official from 1965 to 1990 in the Pennsylvania-Delaware Lacrosse Officials Association, where he was a president for 2 terms of 3 years each. He was a treasurer for 3 years, and he was an assigner for 7 years. Among his college assignments as an official included the NCAA Division III championship in 1983 and the North-South game in 1985. But his real contribution, his main, what we know him for, was for the 27 years as a District 3 assigner. During that time, under his leadership, he developed and mentored many officials in the District 3 area and who worked their way up from D3 down to D1, up to D1. Noteworthy was his election in the induction of into the Pennsylvania Lacrosse Hall of Fame in 2013. As one official put it, his goal was always to put the assigned best officials on the field, no matter where they lived or where they worked. As another official said, he was a great teacher, mentor, and an assigner. It gives me great pleasure to present the Frenchie Julian Award for 2019 to Noel Turner.
Thank you very much. I was going to say that I started on the field in 1965, and as a result, I ended up working over 50 years in one way or another with officiating. And this award is really special to me because it comes from the officials. It's the icing on the cake to my 50 years of officiating, and I thank you very much.
These awards are given, as I said, every year, and we encourage all of you who know or can see somebody that you think would be deserving of this award to have your input sent. We send out this notice every year. We keep open for 1 month period of time receipt of nominations of this award. So keep it in your mind. If you see something, see somebody that you really feel deserves the recognition, please send us the information so that we'll have it and have a great array of folks to choose these from. Thank you very much.
All right. Something a little different this year. We haven't done it in the past, but the international game is becoming a lot larger. World lacrosse is trying to take it to the Olympics, as everybody knows. Hopefully someday lacrosse will be back in the Olympics. It was there one time, but World lacrosse has a lot to do with that. And we've got a lot of international officials. And we're going to hear from a couple of them right now. Charlie and
Thanks, Tommy. Before I get into the international stuff, just on behalf of U.S. Lacrosse, I'd like to thank everyone for your commitment to the game and dedication to officiating. Without you guys, the game doesn't exist. As we always said, without officials, it's just practice. So thank you on behalf of Steve Stenerson and U.S. Lacrosse for being members of U.S. Lacrosse. It's been a long-standing relationship with NILOA, and the relationship, I think, has only gotten better thanks to Kevin and Brian for allowing us this opportunity to present. One of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is we created the Jake Curran Award. It's to recognize someone from international officiating that's from the U.S. that's serviced the game overseas, made the world lacrosse better. And Rob's going to present that in a second. But one of the things, too, we've done from U.S. Lacrosse is we've evolved our selection process and criteria for international officials. We're trying to make it more accommodating to all college officials. We've added the requirement that you have to be a NILOA official in order to be eligible for both the U19 or senior championships. So those are the two championships that U.S. Lacrosse is involved in selecting and nominating officials to World Lacrosse for. And we've recently just gone through our 2019 selection process for next year in Ireland, where we're going to send 6 officials over to Ireland to represent us and 1 observer. And those names will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. And we hope when you see those names that you reach out to them and congratulate them and support them and help them in their efforts to represent not just the U.S., but I think everyone in this room in good standing as an international official overseas, and helping develop the Japanese, the Irish officials, the English officials, the German officials, everything. And that's something that we take great pride in from a U.S. standpoint of us going over and helping other officials in other areas of the world get better and learn from us. So that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Rob Gross to present the Jake Curran Award for this year. And Rob.
Thank you, Charlie. I'd like to thank NILOA for including the Jake Curran Award in this year's agenda. The award was started in 2015 to bring awareness to the international game and the contributions of American officials. It was usually given at the U.S. Lacrosse National Convention at the International Officials Meeting. And typically this meeting would see anywhere between 10 and 30 people attend. So it's great that the award will now get this kind of exposure. We lost Jake this past year, and so it seemed like the right time to not only make more people aware of this award, but to make more people aware of just some of Jake's contributions. and his accomplishments. Jake traveled the world as a lacrosse official and a mentor. If Jake was out of the country, he was either on a lacrosse field or on top of a mountain. He was also profoundly intelligent and hilarious at the same time. Officials wanted to be like Jake. In 2015, Jake Curran was inducted into the Lacrosse Hall of Fame. He helped write the modern international rules and had a significant impact on the game worldwide. There's no way we could list them all here or have time to do so, but we can remember him with this award. When lacrosse makes it to the Olympics, we will be able to sincerely say that Jake had a major part in that. At his memorial service this past spring, there were lots of stories and everyone was laughing and smiling after each one. Ask one of the Syracuse guys to tell you a story about Jake, and I guarantee you'll be smiling at the end. Previous winners of this award include Jake himself, Al Blau, and Walt Munsey. When we gave the award to Walt, it was in a room with maybe 10 other people. Walt was Jake's best friend, and it was a special moment for him. So, could we please recognize Walt and give him the proper round of applause? Do you want to say anything, Walt?
He was a huge part of the international game for sure. Writing the rules, fighting with the English and the Aussies about the rules and how to handle a push call and whatever he had to deal with. But he was the guy behind the whole deal. He and Graham Lester, they both worked hours and hours to put that together. And I'm really honored to be a recipient of that particular award. And hopefully, the game continues and grows as it is. Don't know about the Olympic game, 6-on-6. Not too sure about that act, but it'll be another step for sure, a big one. So thanks for your recognition here today for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Walt. This year's recipient has done just about everything that can be done by an official at the international level. He officiated a gold medal game at a world championship and was referee-in-chief at a world championship. He's traveled the world as an official's coach and mentor and was chair of the men's officiating committee. He has edited and updated the men's field and indoor rule books and has done work to help international officials that does not get publicized, which are too numerous to mention here. He was recently named chair of officiating for World Lacrosse, and he will be overseeing men's, women's, and indoor lacrosse. International officiating is in great hands. This year's recipient of the Jake Curran Award is Tom Sutton.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much. As with Walt, this award means an awful lot to me. Jake and I, we did some world events together. I attended Jake's last world event, which meant a lot to me. There was no other person that did anything more for international lacrosse than Jake Curran in the U.S. He basically started it, him and Bob Derlin. I know Bob's son's over here. Those two were instrumental, traveled. They went to Canada, I don't know how many times, to start the game of lacrosse internationally. So it's quite an honor to follow those guys' footsteps. if you guys haven't experienced international lacrosse, I would highly encourage you guys to get involved. We probably have, I don't know, how many members that have done international, a couple hundred over the years. So it is pretty widespread. Again, this caught me off guard a little bit, but as Walt said, if you knew Jake, you would really appreciate this award, and I'm happy to receive it on your behalf. Thanks.
If you're a current or former and you've served as an international official, if you could come up here, we'd like to get a group photo with Sutton to share with World Lacrosse. Just come on up at the next break whenever that's going to be.
Thank you. One other piece of business. You heard Charlie talk about U.S. Lacrosse's involvement. We do want to recognize the partnership that we've reestablished with U.S. Lacrosse. They've done a great job. The director calls. Charlie puts a lot of effort into those. We improve every time, but we do appreciate the partnership we have with U.S. Lacrosse right now. Not only director calls, but training events. We try to partner with some of them also. Again, let's take a quick 10-minute break, and we'll be back, and we'll finish the morning presentation. Kevin and I, Brian, and the rest of the board have already been in contact with negotiations for the new contract with MLAX OG. And all part of that factors in on how we do things. Some guys don't do things very well. That hurts us in negotiations. The board took a pretty serious step last night. I'm going to make everybody aware of it right now. You heard Tommy Abbott talk about flights, making sure you make your arrangements early. Try to be economical in those flights. All right. The board last night decided if you do not make your flight within 21 days advance, you will be suspended. All right, pretty simple. The institution suffered some loss on flights because we don't make them within that 21 days. It's in our contract that we have to have our flights 21 days in advance. All right, pretty simple. That's all part of being better, and it would definitely help us in our contract negotiation. What that does is allow more people to fly. They don't mind it as much if we're making them that early. It's usually pretty economical for them. But when we wait and we're paying $800 flight, it's not going to work very much longer. All right, we talked about director's calls earlier. We got some tentative dates out there. They may change, but this is what we're going to start with. The games start about the 1st of February. Is that right, Kevin? Somewhere around there. We got scrimmages middle of January, but the dates right now are up here on the screen. The purpose of director's calls, and Kevin's absolutely right on attendance. I don't think it was 60%, to tell you the truth. But we do put a lot of work in it. Tommy Abbott and I and PJ and Charlie, we go through dry runs every time we have these. We try to bring new information out. People that don't attend, I don't know how they can referee throughout the year without the updates. So, again, the purpose is just to bring light to current issues. They happen, they arise. You're going to hear issues with the dive, as Tommy alluded to. I'm sure we haven't heard the last education piece on that dive, right? So, I thought we had it pretty good 2 years ago. I don't know if we got it very good now. One thing I will say about the dive, I don't have any, oh great. Hang on. Let me turn my strip off over here. Yeah, that worked real good. Wow. Got it. All right, another tool that we have used. Another tool we've used. Next thing though, bulb's going to go out, right? As a forum, it's been very good. It is. I think it has improved our consistency. I know there's some frustration at times when people send a question in and it doesn't get answered right away or may not get answered at all. Let me tell you why that happens. So when the questions are sent in, I have a little group that helps me with that. We can't answer it. We need to go to the NCAA to get answers at times. At times they aren't willing to make a mid-season ruling on something. So if we don't answer a forum question, that's probably the reason why. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I don't think it's my computer's fine. I think it's got to be that. Is there a cable loose there somewhere? No, I unplugged that mic. Oh, that might. Now you did it. Hey, Kevin, can you get that projector fixed just like the hot water? Holy hell. What do you do anyways? We may get through it. We may get through it. Let's see. All right, we good? All right. Talked about that, talked about the form. All right. Kevin alluded to a couple issues we've been dealing with. Well, I haven't been dealing with, the board's been dealing with. And a couple of them revolved around new membership. So we thought we'd better run through the procedure we have for new membership. Because evidently not all our members understand it. Some people need to be refreshed on it. All right. We have one process. 5 or 6 years ago, we developed one process to bring people in. It had to do with tryouts. I think you guys all remember that. Everything goes through the governors. The governors run the district. All right. We've had people supposedly have quasi tryouts that the governors aren't aware of. Somehow things happen, they get in the system. All that's got to stop. All right. There's criteria built for becoming a member. You should be able to at least do a state playoff game, etc., before you become a college official. Application fee, there's tryout fee. Mike Infantino has worked with the governors pretty diligently in the last 2-3 years to get this process ironed out. All right, the tryouts are set up by the governors. We have observers there. I will tell you, and rightfully so, not every tryout official makes it into our group. It's not a guarantee just because you go to tryout that you're in our group. That's the way it should be. We make sure the feedback is presented to everybody that attends a tryout. If acceptable, the governors then go ahead and start the process, continues the process of getting them to be a member. They pay the dues. Dave Pensiero receives the dues, and then they become, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, the provisional members, and then when all the paperwork's completed, they're active. All right? So, again, the only way you can get into college is your governor better be putting you in. All right? So any new person that you want, we need to go out and heavily recruit. We talked about, Brian, one of our main goals of recruiting. A lot of new members come from us. So make sure you go through the governor to get that done. All right? You heard Tommy talk about the rule book. It is posted online, ncaa.com. You know, I do want to apologize. We left you guys high and dry in the fall. You guys went out, didn't have an understanding of the rule. People were calling me. I didn't have an understanding of the rule because I hadn't seen it written. You see when that book was published, right? Updated November 5th, pretty much after all the fall scrimmages. So I had calls, hey, we're calling it this way, we're calling it that way. I said, guys, I don't know what to tell you. All right? You got the ruling now. You should be able to go ahead and apply it. But it has been updated November 5th. Those are the rules that have been changed. I wouldn't worry about two out of the 5, maybe 3 out of the 5. The other ones do apply this year. All right, just going to review a couple points of emphasis last year. How did you guys feel that the zone between the 45s was no player zone during warm-up? Did it work for us? Worked great, didn't it? I don't know what happened, but about my 3rd or 4th game, they're right up the midfield on one of my games I did. And I went and pushed them back, and they said, what are you doing? This is a new rule. Well, we've been warming up like that for our first 2 games. So we got to be consistent with it. It works great. Keeps everybody away from you, right? That's our area. So make sure it's observed. A lot of teams do a really good job with it. They put cones down on the 45. If the assistant coach is out there warming up, make sure he stands on the 45 or inside, right? And the players will stay by him. But I think it worked great. I didn't have a situation where I had to escalate anything with the buffer zone. It was always observed pre-game, and it did cease all the nonsense of yelling back and forth over the midfield line. Face-offs. Tommy talked a little bit about it. It is some good news. We do receive fewer and fewer complaints. I think why? Why are we not receiving complaints? I think because we're more consistent. We're more consistent because we've been beaten on it the last 3 or 4 years, right? The ball in the middle of the sticks. That makes a big difference. If that face-off guy can't get that in the throat of the stick, it's pretty difficult, you know, not to move the ball. So, pretty important. Make sure the ball's in the middle of the stick. Make sure the sticks are off the line. Head on neutral zone. And then the last thing, no swistle. Vary the whistle. All right? No swistle, vary the whistle. I know a lot of you guys aren't going to like to hear that. We said it. So, you know, I'm only talking a half a second to a second varying the whistle. It's not that big a deal. The other thing we got a lot better on is people started following the mechanic. They didn't wait 15 yards from the center line and then go up and the kids are down. We kept the kids down a lot shorter, right? We need to be there. We stay down, be there, put the ball down, let's go. All right? So we got a lot better than that. A couple things we talked about in director's calls last year. Communication with coaches. Anybody that attended the director's call, you saw the comments. I put them right on the screen of what the coaches said. That was early in the year. We still received some comments later in the year, similar comments. It's one area, if you're not good at it, it's going to be a long day, right? Sometimes if you're good at it, it's a long day. But the only way to get better is keep working on it. There's a lot of ways out there, a lot of police training. They talk situations down all the time. And if you think about that and how they approach that, it's probably a good way for us to start. We're never going to make everybody happy, right? 50% of the time, somebody's pissed off at us. The biggest thing I think we need to do is understand we're going to take some criticism, but we shouldn't take a lot of criticism, right? We know we're going to get questioned. You got to understand that. We know they're going to disagree. We need to be ready for that. One thing I try to do is if I make a call and I know a coach is probably not going to like it, I have an answer in my mind before I put the ball back into play and what I'm going to say. All right? Think about it. You should know what that question is going to be and have an answer prepared. One of the biggest things is stay calm. If we stay calm, what's the make the coach look like? Right. I heard asshole a little bit. No, I wouldn't go quite that far, but it puts us in a better position, doesn't it? Puts us in a better position if we stay calm and he's going nuts. If we can stay calm, we look more professional. If we maintain an even voice, it's even better. Be polite. That's a tough one for me. But I usually am professional. And, the quicker we can get in and out of that situation, the better. So be concise and be quick. All right? You're not going to win the argument. You're not going to win them over. So you might as well just tell them what it is and move on. A couple things. Can you have a conversation with back to the coach? Is it inappropriate to do that? No. That's how we should start, right? If we turn face to face, it usually gets confrontational in a hurry. If we can do it, run up the field, don't turn your back, don't turn around and face them, just keep going up the field, you're probably better off. Avoid sarcasm. There's only a few people in this world that can pull off sarcasm during an argument, all right? It usually excites everybody, so try not to use it. I always tell a coach, I'll answer any question, but it's got to be a question, coach. All right? If he's yelling, I'm not talking. If he talks, I'll talk. A couple things, game report-wise. They're very important to fill out. They're very, very important to fill out if you have an issue. All right? If you have an injection, if you have a security issue, which we've had, unusual circumstances box needs to be checked. Kevin gets every one of those, and Kevin does address every one of those. He'll either call the RA that's involved, or he might call the school directly if it's an issue. We do have the backing of the conferences. I think Buzzy Lynn has probably had most experience with the conference coordinators, and Buzzy, they got her back actually, don't they? Okay. I did miss one slide. I appreciate it. I jumped over that one. Again, going back to communication with the coaches, give them the appropriate time. I see people spending too much time. Do we need to stop at the cone every time up the field? Is that a yes or a no? No. Very seldom will I go to the cone coming up the field. All right, I'm going to come close, but I'm going to keep right on going. Was there a reason to stop there? To get abused? Yeah, that's one reason, if you like that. So, if you need to talk to him, you know when you can want to talk to you, but you got to make it quick, concise, and get out of there, right? Oh, I missed a word on that. Very little to no input from assistant coaches, especially in the argumentative mode. All right, you're gonna shut that down quickly. We shouldn't have to listen to assistant coach scream and yell at us. It's not saying we're not talking to them, but if they're screaming and yelling, we're not talking to them. All right. I already said you talk to me and I'll talk to you. If they cross the line, you guys need to know what you're going to do. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not there. But I think we all need to know what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. It's a good thing to discuss in your pregame sometimes. Halftime, timeouts. If stuff's getting out of control, we need to talk about it. All right. So mechanics. We talked about this last year. It continued to happen last year. Here's a problem. All right. We got people making up mechanics. We got people doing stuff that I don't know where they learned it. But here's what happens. these games are more and more televised, right? You wouldn't believe the number of calls I get when a televised game and one of our better officials isn't doing the mechanic properly or is doing something that nobody else does. We got people watching us. We have 1,050 people in our group. Those games on TV need to be managed mechanically perfect, so we all learn from them. All right? It's very important. Follow our mechanics. So if you want to suggest a mechanic change, I'm open to it. I do have a little group that I run things through. So a proper process would make me aware of it. We'll consider it, and then we'll make a decision on it. A couple things we changed last year. Well, this is one item that we saw people doing. When we put the ball back into play, they were pumping their arm instead of winding their arm. All right? We don't pump our arm, we wind our arm. College lacrosse. We no longer use finger signals to report penalties. Had a lot of resistance to this, but I tell you what, you think that girl sitting at the penalty box knows what that is? Like peace, right? Peace? No. How the hell do they know that's a 7? Go over there, get rid of the hand signals with this. Because I did it so quick, I didn't even know if I had the right number up there half the time. So I think that was a good move. All right, it made the signals look a little sharper. You verbalize it good enough, and we can move on. Do we need to repeat it 2 or 3 or 4 times? No. Be consistent, be concise, and be clear the first time, and you don't need to repeat it. Single side starting all face-off violations. I think this has worked good. This is a good mechanic we put in. Make sure the other 2 are holding the lines, holding the players behind the restraining line. The defensive clearing lines, whatever you want to call them. Shot clock's another one we worked through the season. We had a couple different mechanics early on. We tried to pick the best one of the bunch. I think we all agree, pointing and verbalizing under is probably the best way to go now. Very important to verbalize, because if I'm refereeing a game, I'm not looking at you, right? So if we verbalize, we're pretty sure we're going to get it. One reset, all reset. Again, verbalize the reset. Definitely helps. Play on signal, then reset the shot clock. Same with the face-off. Make the possession call, then reset the shot clock. Typically, a second or 2 late on a reset is probably better than early, isn't it? You got to make sure you got a good possession, and then give them a good reset. Just a couple items that probably aren't in the book on resets. I know they're not written in the book. We reset the shot clock every time we administer a time-serving foul, correct? That's a good one. Remember that. Possession change is pretty obvious. On all non-serving technical play-ons, we reset the shot clock, correct? Here's another one, the second one on the list there. It hits the goalie. Does it say if the goalie has to be in the crease or not? No. All right? If it hits the goalie on the shot, you're going to reset the shot clock. He doesn't have to be in the crease. Okay? On the defensive end, you reset the shot clock. They still have 20 seconds to clear. If they're in the offensive end and you reset the shot clock, what can they do? They can go all the way back. They can do whatever, right? As long as they're back over by 60. Yeah. Kind of weird, I know. But like I said, with a non-rule change year, there's not a whole lot of new mechanics. I just want to review the stuff that was kind of low-hanging fruit that we kind of screwed up last year. So, Kevin here? We're going to break until 12:45. We'll get the sessions going. So if anybody wants to check out of the room, they'll have time to do that. I do want to appreciate all you guys attending. We got a great crowd here this year, and I hope you guys appreciate everything. So, thank you.